Any hardship, she is by my side. We both equals, so there is no pride. I stay humble, she do too. We both on the same page. In fact, I live through you and you live through me. Our spirits connected, so I'll cherish this marriage and never neglect it. Spend that quality time as I help you out. That's my job as the man of the house. I walk down the aisle, I'm a married man. And all I do is smile, I'm a married man. Okay, everyone, this is what I have been posting about the past couple days. This is, how long have we been talking about doing this? Like 3-4 months?
Yeah, a little while.
Yeah, this is called Cherish the Marriage. Cherish the Marriage.
Yes.
And it's a little video that we're going to be doing every 2 weeks. You explain a little more what's meant by Cherish the Marriage.
Okay, so Cherish the Marriage is about, not just about cherishing the marriage relationship, which obviously we definitely do.
Yes.
But it's also about cherishing the marriage of, like, ideas, the coming together of things, the coming together of two different perspectives,
Thoughts, yeah.
two different backgrounds,
yes.
And just being able to come together and specifically to communicate together,
yes.
which is one of the main things we wanted to talk about today.
Yes, we're going to talk about communication today and how we communicate and why it has been so important in our marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So, what about communication? Like how, like, of course you have to communicate when there's like a disagreement or something, but just in any situation, like if something's upsetting you, how do you communicate it with me? To let me know, or it doesn't have to be something that's upsetting you, just in general, just communication in general, just how does that make our relationship better?
Well, I think, sorry. I think one of the main things that we've talked about and tried to do in our relationship is to give each other the ability to say when something's upsetting us,
yes.
even if, like, if I tell him, hey, you're doing this thing and it hurts my feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he gives me the ability to do that without just jumping on the defensive, like, oh, no, I don't do that, I didn't say that, like,
mm-hmm.
It shouldn't have come out that way. But, we give each other the ability to express those things and then, talk through them together.
And I also try to put myself in your position a lot of times, like, or like, instead of just seeing it from my point of view, I wonder, like, well, what are you, thinking, or how does this make you feel, like, when I say a certain thing, or,
mm-hmm.
I just try to put myself in your shoes. I guess be empathetic.
Yeah.
And that really helps, too, in communicating, and then it lets you feel like you can talk to me and not, like, have me blow off the handle, or vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you things, but then there are those times when certain things do upset us, and then,
mm-hmm.
We also try not to be tit for tat and like.
Right. Yeah. So if one of us does hurt each other's feelings, and it's pretty much always on accident, or a miscommunication between us, or
mm-hmm.
something like that. But if one of us does something that upsets the other person or hurts their feelings, like, we're not going to go back and say, okay, well, now I'm going to do this, and hurt your feelings
mm-hmm.
instead. Like, our goal is always to be the most peaceful as possible. So whenever we do have an argument or a disagreement or a miscommunication, our goal is to get back to a peaceful, happy relationship
mm-hmm.
as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So it's not ever about, like, fighting about stuff, or, like, we don't ever say mean things to each other. Like, we're both really careful.
Ever?
Not to say
not
mean.
Intentional. We don't.
Not
ever
intentionally, no. But we're both really careful, I think, in like when we do, like, have a disagreement and we're talking something through.
It's mostly me.
We don't say anything. We do really do our best not to say anything that will really hurt the other person's feelings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's important to let your kind of anger settle down, because in the moment you'll say something that you end up regretting later.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to, like, realize that I am in a place right now where I need to kind of calm down and go do something relaxing, and then, when cooler heads prevail, then you can go back and talk about whatever was bothering you, and not just say kind of be too blunt, because sometimes there's certain things that might be true in a situation, or
you might bring up something that's old, but it's not necessarily going to help the situation or help you to get past it. I also like how, like, when we do resolve things, we don't, like, it's resolved. We don't, like, go back to the same thing or bring up old issues, you know. I think that can be, you know, evidence that something isn't solved if you're having the same issue that's recurring, or if you're not expressing your feelings or communicating negative things you're feeling, then stuff starts to kind of build and fester, and then, you know, all these small things become big things, and now you, you know, you might have a, you know, just get to your breaking point and and not, you know, fix it.
Yeah, which is another big part of communication, I think, is working through the small things as they come up, because so often if you just let things slide and slide and slide and slide, and then eventually, you know, you're years into a relationship and you realize, like, we've never resolved these issues, and now you have so many small issues that they become a big issue.
Right.
And then, you know, so we really try to work through even like little things, like, just to use an example. Here's an example of something that really might be, like, seem kind of small, but most of my life, I've been an artist. And so I have a signature when I sign each piece of artwork. So I used to sign it like my name with a Joanna in cursive, and then at the end I would put this big swoop for C for my last name. So then once we got married, Derek was kind of like he felt a little bothered by that C, like he almost
kept
felt
using
like
C
so he was like
switching to J.
Yeah, because now my last name is Johnson, and so Derek was thinking like maybe she doesn't, you know, like thinking maybe it was a reflection on our relationship, which for me it really wasn't. It wasn't that big of a deal, but for him, he did have an emotional reaction to it. So I was like, okay, you know, we talked it through. We didn't agree initially. We had to kind of, you know, we talked about it, and then we kind of both thought about it separately.
But once I did think about it, like, you had been practicing that signature like thousands of times, so it had become second nature. So it wasn't like you was intentionally trying to put a C for Coleman instead of Johnson. It was just like it hadn't become a habit yet, and you hadn't practiced, you know, changing it was kind of like the logo, your signature for the painting, and then but you didn't have a problem with changing it at some point.
Right. So then after I realized that it was something important to him, I was like, okay, so I can just change it. It's not that big of a deal. So then, you know, eventually I did. So things like that, like, you know, we could have turned that into a huge argument with him saying, like, why are you doing this? And me saying, this doesn't matter. Like, why do you care? You know, but we really didn't have that conversation. We tried not to have that type of a conversation. Like, we always want to, you know, kind of try and see where the other person is coming from and come to an agreement. Like, our ultimate goal is always to come together.
Yeah, to agree, be on the same page. But that's, you know, that's going to be difficult. And I don't want this to sound like we're just trying to give marriage advice. You know, we're not really doing that. We just want to talk about, you know, good things in our marriage. And, you know, some people can glean some stuff from it. Cool if they have other questions. We have a lot of topics we want to talk about, you know, submission and, like, mainly some stuff biblical, but, you know, race stuff, all types of stuff, because we have different point of views on things, and we can have these conversations with each other at home. So, like, you know, why don't we do a little series to where, you know, other people can chime in and kind of get perspective on it too. So, but in terms of communication, what about when, like, well, it also helps that I kind of ask you, like, hey, how does this make you feel, or is there anything I can do to help you in this situation? Like, oh, if you're in processing something, I can kind of ask, do you need time? So it really helps, right, that I'm kind of open the field for you to kind of say what you need to say. You don't feel like if you do express certain emotions, they're going to lead to an argument or something like that, right? That helps too.
Yeah, that does. And I know for me personally, a lot of times I don't know why, just for me, I have a hard time feeling like somebody really wants to hear what I'm feeling, or like, what I have to say. You know, like, my initial thought is like, oh, they don't, you know, they don't want to really hear this. So yeah, that helps for me that you tell me, like, or ask me like, what's the matter? Are you upset about something?
You
And
do the
we
same too.
we try and do that
Goes
with
both
each
ways.
other, so that we both know that we care about each other. We're interested in what each other is feeling.
Right. Yeah, that's really important.
Yeah.
So, what would you say about like compromise? Are there things when you do have to compromise in a situation in terms of communication, or like, let's say there's something you don't want to communicate, or something that's really hard for you to communicate? How do you go about getting it through to me or letting me know? Like, for example, like, if I just do something like, you've had a long day with the kids, and I might come home and like be nitpicking about stuff like that. How do you feel like? How do you communicate that to me in terms of like,
Oh, like that's
If
bothering you or
yeah,
something. I don't know. I mean, I do like there are times where the compromise for me is to kind of like there are some things that I can let slide. Like I know this isn't gonna bother me in 10 minutes. Like it bothers me right now, but it's not gonna bother me in 10 minutes. So, I'll just kind of let that slide and continue to just be like kind. Even if there's something that feels like right in that moment feels like a negative or makes me feel bad or something. Like I don't think every single thing has to be like a huge discussion. Sometimes there are things that you'll just kind of let them slide. But if there's something like if there was something that is consistent, like happens on a regular basis or something like that, then I'd want to discuss it and say, you do this, pretty frequently, and this is how it makes me feel. And so, like, can we talk about that?
Yeah, exactly. Anything you want to ask?
Do I have any questions?
Communication.
It's a good question.
Communication. You drawing a blank now? We're live. We're live. I said you're gonna be ready.
I know.
See, I'm ready. I'm firing at the hip.
I know. I actually meant to write down some stuff.
Write it down. It's all here. Write down. Memorize.
Oh, man. Okay, so what would you say is the most important communication thing for you? Like, what's the most important part of our communication in our relationship?
You're asking me?
I'm asking you.
You're not asking the viewers, you're asking me?
No, I'm asking you.
The most important part of our communication, well, one, that we understand that we're constantly trying to be on the same page if we are miscommunicating. So I think the most important thing is you being someone that's easy to talk to and not taking offense to things easily, because, sometimes I know I can say things a certain way or in a certain tone, and if you were the type that, took offense to that, or if you, like you said earlier, got defensive, then we constantly butting heads all the time.
Yeah.
So I think the most important thing is you being someone that's easy to talk to, and because you're so easygoing, it makes it that much more easier for me to say, hey, this is bothering me, or you. We haven't been married that long, but you still know like when I might need some space or some time to myself. So those nonverbal communication elements, I think that's the most important thing. Even with you, I know when you make a sigh or something's bothering you, or just having that connection. So I think that's the most important thing, because it's hard figuring out someone else if they're not really open or a good communicator.
Right.
So I know I dealt with that in years past. So I think it's just good that we know each other so well that we can have that open floor.
Yeah, like try to keep ourselves, like I know for me, I try to keep myself like in tune with you, to know, how you're feeling, or like to recognize the signs.
Or just come on and ask.
Yeah, and that's
the easiest way to do it. If you don't know your significant other that well, I mean, it's hard to figure out sometimes. You just ask them, hey, what's bothering you, or what's what's going on, or how can I make this better, or something like that. And
yeah, I think that's a good point.
both
Like both of us are very open about asking for things. Like neither of us does like a like a weird game playing thing where like we just give hints about things. Like if I want to know if he's upset, I'll just say, are you upset?
Be direct,
like, because sometimes it might seem like he's upset and he's just extra tired that day.
Yeah, I'll be
And
thinking about songs or something. I'll be the farthest thing from my mind, but I'm
right.
real quiet. So when I'm in my thoughts or something, she might interpret that as me being upset or mad at her, or if the
Hmm.
house isn't cleaned up, she might think I'm upset. But you know, a lot of times that's the opposite.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I would say that's a big part of communication is just being able, just asking them, just being very blunt with each other in the sense of just coming out and asking, how are you feeling? Is there
Hmm.
anything I can do for you?
Hmm.
Like, Derek a lot of times will, just ask me, hey, do you need to get out
Yeah,
after
get
I
out the
get
house.
home? Like, do
Yeah,
you need to get out of the house? You've been at home all day with the kids.
right.
Whereas I would probably never ask for that. I would probably just be like, oh, no,
Yeah,
I'm
she's
okay.
very, very,
Like, I'm fine.
very everything. She'll have a kid in one hand doing this, doing that. Tell she's stressed, sweating. I'm like, do you need to get out? You need to break. You need some time. But that'd be nice, I guess. But she's the type that won't come on and ask for that. So I have to notice that and offer, you know.
Right, and vice versa when Derek needs like alone time. He has been really used to that before having kids, and so now having 3 kids, and then the noise and sometimes it just gets really stressful, and so I'm always trying to be aware of hey, do you need to go take a breather? Do you need to go? Do you need to get out? You want to go play basketball or something?
How are we on time? These are going to be about 20 minutes.
Maybe about
So
4 minutes.
that's it. 16 minutes running
Yeah.
out of time. So, do we want to do any prayer or anything like that?
Yep. We could.
We don't have to this time. Yeah, we keep these about 20 minutes. Like I said, we're going to do them every 2 weeks. We got about
Yeah,
4 or 5 minutes left. Y'all can feel free to ask any questions. Again, this is a new video series we're going to be doing called Cherishing Our Marriage, if you're just catching on late.
Mm-hmm.
It'll just be us talking about different topics concerning marriage and how we kind of hold things together. I do want to say before we close that now that I have 3 kids and being at home with the kids, those women who stay at home moms, you just don't realize how much energy it takes just to deal with the kids nagging and crying and all that. Like women who don't work at home, they just at home with the kids, and the guy might be thinking, oh, you just home all day. Even if they're sitting all day, it just is so draining having the kids just cry at you all day and nag at you. And I have such a greater respect now for having multiple children, and I don't want to say dealing with it like it's a bad thing, but it's definitely work. It's definitely its own job, and I think women don't get enough credit for doing that because they deal with most of the kids stuff while the guys are at work. So, if you got any final thoughts, we're going to get ready and wrap it up. Again, we was talking about communication today and how we communicate and some key points to communication. Let's do a list of the top 3 things of communication. What would you say? One, being open, right? Being open to the other person's feelings, I'd say is one. I'm gonna do my 3.
Okay, you do your 3.
I'd say being open to the person's feelings, paying attention to your needs, and listening. You have to listen. I have to listen to what you're saying, and when you tell me something, don't just kind of view it through my lens, but kind of put yourself in your situation. For example, like you were saying, like about housework, or just certain expectations. I think in our society, there's certain expectations where, if I come home, I expect the food to be done, or I expect this, not taking into consideration the type of day you might have had. So I might ask you that first, and then now I can understand why something might not be done, or vice versa.
Right.
So it's really important to be open and being empathetic.
Yeah.
And just being understanding and just enjoying each other's company. So what would you say is the most important 3 important things about communication before we close?
Okay, so I would say the 3 most important things about communication are 1, letting each other speak what they're feeling without getting on the defensive immediately, where they can actually, really feel free to express themselves. I think feeling free to express what you're feeling, even if you know that it might hurt the other person's feelings, maybe they didn't mean to upset you, but you need to still be able to say, that upset me. So I think that's important, allowing each other to speak what they're feeling.
Right.
Two, I would say being honest with each other. And yourself, sometimes you might say like, oh, no, it's not that big of a deal, but it really is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So I think being honest
You
about...
mean you being the person saying something's not a big deal when it's a big deal to you, but you're telling me it's not a big deal?
Yeah, but it really is a big deal, and then it like comes out in other ways because we don't ever actually work through it.
Okay.
And then I would say also just remaining kind with each other through everything. Like, of course, it's easy to be kind with each other when you're happy and everything's going fine, but when you're in the middle of an argument or a hard disagreement, you might want to be kind of mean to them, but I think it's really important
or
to
maybe
not...
wanted, not me, but a husband may say something that hurts your feelings, or something that they warrant a negative response.
Yeah, that's true, but I mean more in the sense of like saying something that's mean, like you want to hurt their feelings.
Give me an example. Why would you want to hurt your significant other's feelings?
Well, I'm saying if you're mad, sometimes you might get that urge, and I'm just saying you need to not...
I get mad. I don't want to hurt your feelings.
I know that because both of us are like I'm saying both of us. I'm just saying that's important for, I know that for me, I have to not say certain things.
So you want to hurt my feelings at certain times?
No, I'm just saying stuff will pop in my head, and
That's
I
different.
choose not to say it because it'll pop in my head, and I have to choose not to say it.
We got a question. Would you be honest even if you know it might hurt your spouse's feelings? Yeah, that's what she was just addressing, big bro. And it all goes with how you present it. Like, I want to put you on blast. I don't know if I should.
You can do it. Oh, I see. Yeah, you can say that. Yeah.
Okay, there was a time where Joanna, because she's a country girl, so she didn't wear deodorant, but she didn't really sweat though.
When we first met, yeah.
But this time she was a little unsure, a little So I told her, I just told her that she needed some deodorant on. So you said I said it in a way to where it didn't hurt your feelings.
Yeah, you might have just asked me. You might have just said, "Hey, did you put on deodorant today?" And I said no, and then I was like, do you think I need some? And then he was like, "Yeah, a little bit."
Okay.
So it's something like that.
Yeah. So yeah, Buddha, you can be honest, but it depends on what you're being honest about, and then you also have to weigh that honesty. Like you don't want to be honest and nitpick just for the sake of being honest if it's not gonna improve the situation, because you can't change a person. No. So you can't change a person and make them into this robot. You got to accept them for who they are to an extent. So I'm a little more neat and clean and stuff than Joanna might be with. She's clean too, but she's just not as meticulous as me. So I'm not going to nitpick and make sure she does all this stuff and make sure she's just how I want her to be. You have to kind of accept the person. And so, yeah, some things do hurt their feelings. And then we've had discussions where she hurts my feelings. And but in the end, after we've both been honest and we come together, we're glad we told each other that, because then it makes us a better person together. Because, and that leads to my next question I was going to ask you. We got to get ready and wrap it up.
Yeah, okay, we can.
But yeah, I guess the kids ain't up yet, so
not yet.
And they're knocked out. But I was going to ask, kind of along the lines of what he said, what if I'm wrong about something, and I'm wrong, and we're having a disagreement, or maybe just a difference of opinion, not necessarily right or wrong. How do you think, or how would you say we handle it when you're like an example, like let's say, like tithing.
Okay.
So you have a certain belief about tithing, and you know how I would believe about tithing.
Right.
So, one could view that as being right or wrong, or trying to be on the same page. So how do you think you communicate that in a sense to where, we can both be on the same page, but we're still agreeing, but, some would say the way I believe tithing, I'm wrong. And I don't know if you think it's wrong about how I was saying about it. That might be a bad example, but you get what I'm asking.
I don't know. Yeah, that could probably a whole other video.
Oh yeah, that is. Yeah.
But
well, you get what I'm saying. If I'm wrong about a situation, or if you're wrong, how do you still like communicate, I think you're wrong, but I'm respecting your
Well, I think
opinion.
it's more so just in the tone, like, and how the words you're using and how you're speaking to the other person, where it's not just like, I feel like both of us kind of work to, like, not make the other person feel stupid. Like, that's a really big thing. Like,
being considerate.
Yeah,
you
like,
have to make a conscious effort to do that. Because
right.
sometimes I'll say something and she might feel stupid, but I wasn't trying to make her feel that way, or vice versa. I'll tell her something and she makes me feel stupid.
Right, because I mean, sometimes you just kind of might take like a, oh, I'm right and you're wrong, like, why are you so dumb, sort of mentality, and even if you don't say that out loud, that might come out in the other words you say or the tone.
Right.
So, I know for me, I have to, I work to not be that way.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like I probably was that way in childhood with my siblings.
Mm-hmm.
So,
maybe.
So yeah, I think for us, like, sometimes there are things where we don't end up agreeing at the end of the conversation. Like, but it might be something where we're like, okay, we'll agree to disagree, I guess. Every now and then.
I hate that saying.
I know. I'm sorry.
We agree to disagree. You're not agreeing on anything if you're disagreeing, right?
But we agree to not argue about it anymore at this point.
I want to start an argument. Do we argue?
Do we argue? I wouldn't say that we argue.
You don't think we argue?
No.
All right, we got one more question. We're going to get ready and wrap it up soon. What if you have an aggressive tone in general? Well, that's something you can work on. You mean a raspy Jadakiss voice, Buddha, or you mean in your voice? Because, that's something you have to work on. It depends on how your significant other is interpreting it. If she tells you, because you used to tell me this before we got married, like, don't use that tone with me, and I didn't really realize I was using the tone in certain situations, but you can work on it, improve on it. Don't just think that you're like stuck in your ways or something. If it's something that's within your power to adjust, when your spouse gets to know you, they may realize, that's just your tone and the way you're talking. You're not trying to be hurtful. So, there's going to be some give and take when you sit down and have that conversation with them. Saying, hey, I'm not trying to sound this way. This is what I mean. Because when we talk, sometimes I may say something that may sound a certain way, but I have to tell you, this is exactly what I mean. And how are you interpreting what I'm saying? And sometimes you'll tell me, when you say this, I hear this, and it might be completely different. So being open to having that conversation with them, saying, what am I saying to you right now? Or how are you feeling?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of that just plays into our both of our personas anyway. Anyway, do you want any final thoughts, Joanna?
Did I have any final thoughts?
You don't have to. I just wanted to leave it open for you if you did.
No, I don't think so. We pretty much covered most everything, I guess,
Okay. Everything percent communication. So top, everything communicated right now.
Fully communicated.
That's going to be our next topic.
I don't know. Have we decided the next one?
I've got one.
Okay.
We got to come together and decide, though.
Yeah, we have a few.
So
we have a few we want to talk about.
We got 10.
You have 10?
You have a few. I have 10. And growing by the day. All right. So, thank y'all for watching. I guess we're going to pray it out right now or pray it out next time?
Yeah, we can.
You want to pray it out?
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's hard for me to pray on camera because it feels like I'm praying for the camera.
Okay. We can. We don't have to do it right now.
You can pray. And I'll be with you praying. You can pray. All right, Lord, we just want to thank y'all for watching. Everyone who checked us out. Thank you for this opportunity. We hope our words were clear, and we hope, the Lord, that you will just continue to guide us. Hope everybody has a good week and continues to be blessed, continues to be encouraged. And thank you for this new step that we're doing jointly together. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, so that's it. Thank y'all for watching. All right, everybody. Y'all have any questions? Like I said, we'll be doing this every 2 weeks or so. Maybe next week, depending on how we're feeling.
And you can let us know what you might want us to talk about, too. Yeah. If there's anything you think would be interesting.
Right.
Just drop that in the comments.
I think next we should jump into submission.
Okay.
You submit to me. Submit. I'm the man.
Wow. Yeah, we're gonna.
We submit to each other?
We can discuss that.
Next time, what are we on the time?
We are, I don't know, it doesn't even say.
No, half
30
hour?
minutes.
Okay,
Yep.
that's we want to keep it right about 30 minutes. All right,
Yep.
well, thank y'all for watching. Submit to me. Submission.
Yeah, we'll see you in a couple weeks.
All right, next
hopefully.
time. Peace.
Bye.
I walk down the aisle, I'm a married man. No, all I do is smile, I'm a married man. And though we face some trials, I'm still happy, man. Would I do it all again? Oh yeah, gladly, man. Flesh of my flesh.